Multiple-time divorcees, old fart Rants, and old face bloat Stan Seder are suddenly concerned about dead people in Buffalo. See the links in the video description as per usual. A lot of the dumbass crats are suddenly concerned about dead people in Buffalo, but they are a bit late to the party. From 2015 to 2017, the criminal homicide rate in Buffalo, New York was 16.15 per 100,000. The U.S. homicide rate 2015 to 2017 was 5.2 per 100,000. From 2018 to 2020, the criminal homicide rate in Buffalo, New York was 20.129 per 100,000. The U.S. rate was from 2018 to 2020 was 5.533 per 100,000. Noticing a trend here? An article in the Buffalo News, mentioned that in 2020, over 87% of the people shot in Buffalo were, guess what? Were black. Surprise! Here's some data on the Buffalo City School District school years prior to 2014 through 2018. I wrote this down in one of my essays, but did not archive the page until later, so this will be different from the current data. 57.2% of families with children in public school are receiving food stamps / SNAP benefits. 67% of households with children are single parents, and 29.1% of parents of children in Buffalo City public schools are not in the labor force. The NCES has recently added a cohabitating couple designation pertaining to children in public schools who are living with their parents, but the parents are not married. Data for the Buffalo City School District school years 2014 to 2018 average, 56.5% of families with children in public schools are receiving food stamps. 65% of families with children enrolled in public schools are single parent, and 28.8% of the parents of children in Buffalo City public schools are not in the labor force. 28.8%. Holy moly, that's way over a quarter. For you Democrats listening, that's way over a quarter. Data for the Buffalo City School District school years average 2015 through 2019, 54.9% of families with children in public school are receiving food stamps / SNAP benefits. 57% of families with children enrolled in public schools are single parent, 57%. And 28.7% of parents of children in Buffalo City public schools are not in the labor force. So marginal improvement. A lot of people taking a break from working. If I have children I can't take care of and the father abandons me, that means free stuff. And that's Buffalo. Marriage is important to these mentally ill Democrats because how long do we hear them screech and howl about homosexual marriage? Currently, Buffalo City public schools have a 4-year graduation rate of only 65%. You look at all these small school districts in rural western Iowa, and it's regularly in the 90s. So, yeah. Yikes. The 5-year graduation rate averaged about 65% from the school year 2014, 2015 to 2017, 2018. I'll bet they just need more money. No wonder this city is dying a slow death. In 2012, less than 50% of Buffalo students graduated in 4 years. Can you believe that? Would Barack Obama send his kids to public schools in Buffalo if he lived there? Or would he find a nearby private school not full of hoodlums and kids just attending so they didn't wander around the streets all day? Reminds me of something Milton Friedman said. A lot of schools, this is way back in the 80s, a lot of schools are just centers to keep these idiots off the streets. So then they go into school and make everybody miserable. Buffalo schools continually lag behind graduation rates in New York State, and New York is not exactly something to brag about. Over the past 7 school years, that is school years 2014, 2015 through 2020, 21, the dropout rate was over 15% in Buffalo. Not good. Since the Buffalo City Police Department does not put out an official yearly crime report that is easy to use in a PDF form as most sane departments do, I'm going to give you arrest data by race for Erie County, which Buffalo is in, from 2018 to 2021. Of the 6,235 adult felony arrests categorized as violent in Erie County, 2018 to 2021, and by the way, Biden and Hillary and Obama won that county easily. It wasn't in the 60% range for Hillary or Biden, but Buffalo is really solid Democrat. Outside that, not so much, but Erie County is Democrat country. Of the 6,235 adult felony arrests categorized as violent in Erie County 2018 through 2021, 63.52% of those arrests, or 3,961, were black. Surprised? Erie County, New York is 14% black according to the Census Bureau. I would wager a lot of these young black men who were arrested had no father and did not finish high school. Although Buffalo's school district is so bad, some of them were likely passed through even though they could barely read a beer can. The Democrats want it this way. The more dysfunctional people equals more votes for them. That's why Biden's opened up the borders. We're not going to naturalize educated, successful people. People with a can-do attitude. They want more voters, which means they're going to bring in people who aren't going to work. Let's see, for 2016, the same data for Erie County in 2016 and 2017. Of the 3,866 adult felony arrests, they're categorized as violent. Again, 2016 and 2017. 59.8%, almost 60%. For you Democrats, that's 3/5. Almost 3/5 of all the arrests were black. Surprised? So it's gotten worse in the closer time frame. 2018 to 2021 was worse. So it's getting worse there. I wish I could get that data for homicide arrestees by race instead of just adult violent crimes. But there's a good look at what's going on there. I would have profiled juvenile arrests by race, but that data was not available. According to the FBI, from 1980 to 2008, blacks were roughly 12.6% of the population, yet were 52.5% of known homicide offenders and 47.4% of homicide victims. That's called disproportionate. Ilhan Omar should talk about that. She needs a statistics class, probably some deodorant too. From 2015 to 2020, Buffalo had 292 homicide victims. Say their names, ladies. Say their names. People getting murdered in Buffalo has been a big problem for a long time. It's just sad that you waited until a white guy went on a rampage. Because if you lined up all the black-on-black homicide victims of Erie County over the past decade or so, you would screech a lot about that, but you don't care unless the dead bodies can be used to score political points. According to the Buffalo News, in 2018, 57 people were killed in Buffalo. Their deaths classified as criminal homicides by Buffalo police. 45 were killed by a person who used a gun. I bet you most of the time that was completely illegally obtained. 48 were African American or Latino, and the median age was 28. Same, different day, but city run by Democrats. Here are some other headlines from the Buffalo News from years back that will prove if the Democrats, if the Democrats were serious about caring for dead people in Buffalo, they're many years late. From April 11th, 2016, gun violence continues as Buffalo logs 16 shooting incidents in March. From March 6, 2016. So far in 2016, gunfire has erupted every other day in Buffalo. From July 5th, 2016, police insist spate of shootings doesn't point to crime wave. Ooh! From August 8th, 2016, 37 people shot in Buffalo in July, most of them of any month so far in 2016. From September 4th, 2016, homicides up 68% in Buffalo, while only 3 of this year's killings have been solved. From July 31st, 2017, Chicago gets bad rap, but gun violence in Buffalo isn't much better. And of course, dead is dead, whether the weapon is a gun, a hand, a fist, a foot, a crowbar, or a knife. From September 22nd, 2017, Buffalo police have cleared barely more than half of all homicides in the last 5 years. From January 15th, 2017, Buffalo coping with rash of shootings. February 2nd, 2017, headline, targeting Black Wall of Silence in a harmful no-snitch culture. It's black-on-black gangland homicide, dummies. That's why they're not solving these. That last one is important because much of the homicide in Buffalo that you do not hear about, you might see a peep on the news. Here's the dead body. Here's his mother who just had her son taken away. End of story. It's a lot of gangland violence, and that pile of bodies is massive, but they won't get 1/100th the attention the homicide victims in Buffalo are getting now. Too bad the 292 homicide victims in Buffalo from 2015 to 2020 weren't killed by white supremacists. The antique media might actually care, but the blacks in Buffalo, Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, etc. that were killed by other black gang members, your lives don't matter much. Speaking of Chicago, in 2018, 80.88% of murder victims had prior criminal records, and 19.12% of murder victims had no prior criminal record, pointing to Gangland on gangland, career criminal on career criminal most of the time. Additionally, in 2018, 92.45% of murder offenders had prior criminal records, and 7.55% of murder offenders had no prior criminal records. That buttresses my point. In 2017 and 2018, 80% of the murder victims in Chicago were black/African American. More than 73% of the arrests in 2017 and 2018 in Chicago were black/African American. In a state, Illinois, where 14.6% of the residents are African American/black only, 60.8% white alone, not Hispanic or Latino, in 2019, of all murders where the race of the offender was known, 66.5% of the murder offenders were black/African American. I would wager most of that was Cook County. Black Lives Matter. 155 of those victims was 19 years of age or younger. 479 of the victims were 29 years or younger. For African American men less than 30, murder is a common cause of death, especially in Cook County, Illinois. About 57% of the murder victims were aged 30 or younger. Murder victims were 30 or younger, as well as the murder offenders. So, do you see a trend? Think about moving to Western Iowa. If you're, if you have a work ethic, we don't. You people coming. I've seen a lot of plates in Iowa, not on the interstate from California, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Leave your voting preferences if you're a Democrat where you came from. Think about moving to Western Iowa, where 90% plus of the population has guns. We don't have fatherless children running roughshod, although meth abuse is becoming a problem almost everywhere. We don't have fatherless children running roughshod in the streets all night, and we don't have a pile of homicide victims the police have to sift through every week. If you find a diverse city with a lot of fatherless children, a lot of kids dropping out of school, a lot of working age parents taking a break from the labor force, and bad government schools to create dysfunctional children on purpose, so they'll need the government to support them. If you find a city or a county with all those issues and a sky-high homicide rate, like Buffalo, for example, it probably votes Democrat. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.